let's move on. Today you have a cassette drive, you know it, and what you could do is instead of the cassette drive you can have a USB and you have your virtual drive on USB. It's already well known today on PC. You can have it on the PC, transfer it, but today I will show how to do it on the Raspberry Pi. That type of version, small one, PIL box connected on here. For my setup, I choose immediately the high-spec version with a box where the Pi4 on the PIL box is inside. A little bit more things, but in fact it's this one. And for example, you see I have a screen here. It's connected for some printing, for some debugging, but nothing very special. And here, this is a presentation how I have done it, how it's work, and I wanted to show to you. Some colleagues already helped me to have a review of the content, make some modification of text and so on. So perhaps for a few of people here, it's not totally new, but okay. Let's go. Okay, terms, USB stick, you know what is a USB? It can be, it's a USB storage, you know it. PIL, I call it the PIL storage. Why? Because I heard there is a PIL box and so on. Why not? Digital cassette drive, it's part of the presentation. You know this one. It's here in picture, what you can have a look later, but you know it. So first, thanks to everybody. I'm not so smart, so I needed a lot of help from a lot of people from Raspberry Forum, HP41 Forum, and so on. And if I'm asking too much questions, sometimes is just understand that I'm not so smart. I need some help of others. What was my motivation is in 1984 or 2 years before I used my HP41 but with some magnet cards, and I had some dramatic situation where shortly before my baccalaureate a lot of formula were destroyed. I had to load again, change the batteries and so on, so it was already a little bit a traumatic experience. And when I stopped using the HP41 for programming device because I was moving to bigger computers and so on. But in 21, I found in the internet something like a PIL box, contacting, and I was thinking, hey, that a traumatic experience, perhaps I can solve it. Then I installed such a virtual drive on PC. I was using PIL pair and IL pair from Christophe. Here it was working good on Linux. I implemented it on the Windows too to check what was going on. So no wonder it was working. Then I was using a Raspberry Pi. I have some Raspberry Pi home for printer server. I had a 64-bit Pi, a Pi4, what I wanted to use as a mumble server in the home, but nobody was interested from speaking from PC to PC around the house, so I had a Pi4 by hand. And one time I was thinking, hey, why not to make it a bit smaller? Take it during holiday, not having my big notebook and so on, whatever. Something headless like this one. Then I was starting thinking about, can we install PIL pair on 64-bit ARM? Or so I discovered some issues with Python implementations. Then I was thinking about starting QEMU. Okay, it's not working too. Starting QEMU for nesting. QEMU is the emulation application for nesting DOSBox or nesting the PIL pair and so on, because ARM cannot use automatically this 32 bits x86 binaries. So I was thinking, try the several way and try to find the easiest way. One way, some people in forums said to me, okay, just rewrite PY pair for ARM, Python, and so on. Oh. So my impression was it would be a mountain of work. Say, okay, let's try to find the best situation. Then I achieved it, and you see it. The first one was a paper box. Yeah, now it looks a little bit better. It's a plastic box, but I defined it as a high spec first. A screen for looking at everything on it. It's a USB 3 USB. And I put in it a USB 3 SSD. So I didn't kept the SD card, what you already knows, or small SD card, what you knows in the PI, because due to experience, it's getting corrupted with time, with voltage and so on. So here you see then some picture. And the final setup, this is what here on the table. So in fact, that box here, the gray box, is this one squeezed with a USB SSD squeezed with hub USB, because this screen has to be connected with a USB hub for getting some voltage. So it's a bit high spec, yeah? But as I said, the point is to use such a smaller thing. Then the whole setup here, I just describe each part, what is in it, what is tested, what is working. This is here the high spec. So you have a PI. First, I used a micro SD card in order to boot it. Then I moved the SD card to the USB SSD, and here you just see the whole spec. So if anybody wants to build it up, it just goes through the list in the internet. You will find very quick exactly the same hardware. So I didn't miss anything. Even the 220 volt 3 times, it's listed here. Then I just described here how to achieve this one. Then there was several steps. First, install a Raspbian, which is a small Linux for the PI4 on the SD. Then logging automatically, not to go into the screen every time. Activating a keyboard on screen, except you have sometime, if you want to accept it, you can have such a small combined keyboard. It was not easy to find one, such as things we can find in the internet. It's not very good. So there are several variants here at Amazon, and only this one was working. So I had a long step of finding the hardware, changing it, modifying it, because not everything worked. Other hardware didn't work immediately. Then I moved the boot procedure from the SD card to the SSD. Why I don't want it the SD card? I said before, it's sometimes getting corrupted. I had already such small dramatic experience at the PI1 for my printer on scanner server, because I'm not alone at home. If people need to print, it's very dramatic. If the printer is not working, it's terrible. It has to be solved immediately. So I tried to, for this first setup, not to use the SD card. Then the USB storage is mounted automatically when it's connected on the 220. Then I found in the internet an application which is called Box 86. It's a dynamic ARM application making the connection with the x86, making a connection between ARM and Linux 86, or making a connection between ARM, Wine, Linux 86, which can then start Christoph Windows 86 x86 binaries. So you see several level of application which has to be started. Then we can install ILPair, ILPilbox, ILVideo 80, and so on. I already started different things. It's working fine. Then I made some scripts by connecting on the screen, tipping 2 times, then you have the whole application starting. Next point, what I'm still currently working on is to have this one totally headless, so the scripts are starting from boot on, so no need to touch any screen and so on. And I'm nearly finished, not fully, but I'm nearly finished. Then when the ILPair and so on, the communication has to be defined, the TCP IP and so on. I'm sure, or probably a lot of you know how to do it with the TCP IP numbers going from one to the other one, coming back and so on. So it's a setup which has to be done. Then I found some things which took me quite a long time. So in one config, we have to update the graphics, some graphics thing, else the whole menu from Christoph application is not appearing. So it was hiding some menu commands from the Windows binaries. And I found some things that in the ILPair application, for example, if both windows are not pointing to an existing virtual drive, on the top there is a HP something, and in the below window there is H drive 1 dot dat and so on. So both fields had to be filled and working correctly, so that at each boot it's working fine. Then I made some setups in Linux in order for the PC manager by clicking 2 times on an icon that it's starting immediately. Then here I put it further indication that some video 80 were not working from scratch. I had to install some more libraries in order for the font from Windows are recognized here on the Raspberry. Screensaver off, something standard. Then at the end, that storage drive, which is here at the top, then can be moved to any other PC, can be transported anywhere, can be exchanged between people, or you can just exchange your data drive to send it by email to other users and so on. Example here from this screen, it's not started here, but after boot you will see this. Then by clicking 2 times here on the H41, it's coming up immediately. Then, it's coming up immediately. Then when your hardware, which will be connected here, your HP41 will be connected, you see immediately the tracing which is working. And if you make execute dir, then it will list immediately the content of the storage drive. So it was simulated, confirmed. I don't need to buy this one, and now I will have. I have this one now, and in the next few weeks, I could have only this one. Good. This is here my desktop at home. don't look so good. A lot of cable everywhere. But I just wanted to show that, how it looks like. I just disclosed here the small icons here, how to implement it on the screen. Just disclosed here the script. Here I put it some the setup, when you make the setup about the communication, the COM or the TCP IP, then to just make it stored and available for the next start, not to change it every time. So this is here the content of the script, which can be on where it's shown, where it can be stored. So what could be done more? Yeah? Low spec variant. I started with the high spec. It works, but it's not so cheap. So I think we have to think about the much cheapest one. I was working on the PA1 the last weeks, not working. It's confirmed. It's not working. And we see P1 model 0 or 1 is not working. So the box 86 just confirmed, no, it's not working, forget it. The PI2 version 1.1, it's not working till now for me. Perhaps the 1.2 will work. So I'm going from the lower specification, I'm moving up, try to find the bottom line. Such PI2 currently on the market, it's not so cheap. It's I would say around 50 euros. So, but it's okay. The PI4 is quite expensive. The board only, I see in the internet the pricing or 80, 90 euros. A few months ago it was much cheaper, but now it's getting quite expensive. So what we could do now more is not portrait. You can turn the screen. Then what we can do is for HP71. It's nothing much. It's not very big. I already tried it with the HP71, and you could see here the icons here. HP on the top right. So I have already a small script for starting video 80, PIL box. So then you can play with Reversi from our famous colleague who is not here today. So I tried it with playing Reversi with HP71 with this box. It's Jean-François who wrote Reversi, and it was one of the tests. So over idea, probably I've not done it, but just by starting the PI, have two different drives. One drive automatically for the HP41, another one for HP71. How it has to be connected and so on together in parallel. But I think we could have a setup with a bit more computers or calculators on it. I tried to, for example, this box here, it's quite a bit long here. I tried to have it on the other side, but I ordered some, it would be much shorter, it would look a little bit better, but I was not so positive with some, both connectors 2 times 90 degrees in order to put it in the other side, but it's a possibility to make it a bit smaller, the hardware. Okay, instead of having that LAN cable, what I'm using here, you could use the Wi-Fi which is within the box. Personally, I don't like Wi-Fi of such a board. It's not stable enough. The setup is too difficult. I like cables. It's not a problem for me. Then instead of using such two outputs are good for a keyboard, a mouse, or only one output. Some people could use a Bluetooth. Yeah, Bluetooth. Okay, I just stayed here with my cables and I was happy. However, it was necessary for my screen to have USB hub who is integrated here to have another voltage supply. So, but it's possibility to make it smaller, a bit like this one. This one is the boot is still here, so we are freeing a USB. So I think this one is this setup with booting from the SD card. You have quite a lot of ports, and it's on no screen, so no need for any hub. So this type of version, I would say, is a good, very squeezed version. And at the bottom, the headless version. Craig already sent to me a link or advice to me how to put a button, because if you have such a PI, you have no access to it at all. The booting on the shutting down is a critical phase for the SD. So if you connect to the 220 volt, it will boot up, but how to come down? So we put a button in the top. I have the button. I know how to put it. When you put the button and it's shutting down, your SD card is not corrupted, is all fine. What you could do too, if you have a defect cassette drive, take everything out and just put the two boards inside, and you will have the feeling to have a cassette drive, but it will be an USB. Yeah? So don't throw any defect cassette drive. You can put a bigger engine in it, or you could use some power banks in order to use it as a 5 volt. It's not necessary to use a 220 volt, but you need a bigger power bank. Other people, yeah, sometimes you see in the internet you have some bigger screens, and you have a PI which is screwed on the back. Okay, why not? Some people who wants to have a bigger thing, then you could have your V41 and your whole connection on a tablet with everything screwed on the back. Should be quite flat, because if you take only the two boards of it, and if you stick it on the back of a screen, I think it would be I would say a project if you have nothing else to do. Then the links, how to do it. I gave some links here. How to install Raspberry Pi, how to make an automatic mounting of a USB storage, install a box 86. It can be installed with PI apps, which is an application under ARM, or it can be installed manually. You have here in that area here some advice how to install Wine, but you could install manually the whole box 86. Make some compilation and so on. It's not so difficult. It takes only a little bit time. For the SSD, what I have inside, it's something like quite long. I saw some SSD here. I think it's some SSD. Is it correct? SSD or not? Oh no. USB. But my SSD inside is something like that. It's so long. It's so long, yeah. But there are some advice in the internet, yeah, how to move from the SD install to the USB install. So nothing from me. It's just found and documented here. Creating shortcuts on desktop. Here you have some links on the script were defined before or were disclosed before. The PIL box V41 or ILPER, you know where to find it. The link is indicated here. On few more information for a screensaver here, and for the shutdown button, I put it the link to. If you put the button here on that, then there is some advice how to do it. A virtual keyboard on the screen of some screens is how to install it here. There is a link again. On the pillbox, you know where to order it at Jeff, which is the inventor. So that project, how much it cost me, yeah. So you see, yeah, the whole additional thing here with SSD, with the whole screen and so on, 378. It's what I said. It's a high spec. If you don't use the whole SSD and so on, if you would boot that high spec without screen and so on, then you are still with 141. And the point is to go to a PI2 perhaps, or PI3, then it would be a major reduction again. So I'm making here cost reduction, some cost reduction project. And at the end, what is new in it? It's not really new. The only thing is the use of the box 86. By using that application, then you can use without recompiling the old PIL pair and so on. You can nearly use Christoph binaries direct on such ARM. On the speed is, for me, it's enough. It's good. And at the end, is it something very valuable to have this one? Perhaps not. Perhaps you can have a second-hand book, notebook, and you install Linux on it, and it will work too. You will have your screen and so on. On second-hand notebook, sometime in Germany, when you see it, 150 euros, you could have something where you can install everything. But ARM is here. If you have one home, you want to have it very small on your desk. When you are looking at the TV and you don't want that anybody see that you are working with the HP41, you put that in your pocket and you can do something. The layout without the gray box, it looks like that. You have the PI4 here. You have the SSD boot, and you have here that tail here that you see sticking out. Then you have the USB hub, who is necessary for the screen. You have the HP41 with the PIL box going to another port here. Why I was not using that port on the top? Because at the end, on that setup, I moved that SSD about 180 degrees. I had a connector, a small cable here, in order to put it in that length, in order to make it not so long. And if there are any questions here, the only thing, but from my side, so if you have any questions, please ask. Else, from my side, I have a question here to people, but I would say that's done. Sorry.
Are there any issues to run it with CL version?
Sorry?
Are there any issues to run the stocks with the CL version?
The hpcalc.
H1CL.
Yeah.
I don't know what is it.
Only one CL is
I know. I don't have one. I just. Sorry. I have a HP41 CV, another 6. I concentrate on my hardware, so the HP41CL is not tested, but if you have one here, we can check it. We can check it. Okay.
But I have one here.
Yeah, we can have a look.
It should work because you're using HPIL module. So from your box point of view, it's going to be the same. I'm pretty sure. 100% sure. More than pretty.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Working on a 41 CV is going to work with a CI at that point.
Yeah. So.
About the first question, quite half year ago, 3/4 year, we had the same discussion with somebody who used this combination on a normal Linux distribution, Debian, or I don't know really what happened. It's exactly the same. When you try this on a Windows PC, it works like charm.
Yes.
No problem. But especially, I don't really know what's the reason. But I think perhaps we have some file issues with file protection and so on, which are not compatible. Maybe there's the error maybe in Wine that he is blocking the combination, or
No, it's a IRM. It's a IRM. IRM. It's not a x86. It's a processor. It's a processor structure and so on. So I'm sorry, I'm not a hardware specialist. Not so good software too. But it's ARM cannot make working x86. That's it. You need an application in between.
the problem is known, but the reason why this is working.
Okay, the reason.
You're talking about the storage drive, that file? Because you said that the drive file is not...
You mean it's for the first question, my question. Okay. Okay, my question. Yes, I have on my Linux 64, I have a file. And PIL pair was working wonderful. I was working only with that. It was okay. Then, when I tried to move to the ARM, but I discovered that PIL pair, forget it. It's a huge one. But I could use such thing. Then I was looking here, because I was using for IL pair the Windows binaries and everything. Okay, if I use that binaries, how is it then later? And I could not make it working. One time it was, I don't know.
This was the same person per email. And I have only a Windows system, so I tried different methods, and it was working. There was no difference, so close IL pair used the same DAT file in PIL pair, vice versa. I found nothing.
So in Windows, when you switch between IL pair and PIL pair, it's working on Windows with the same DAT file?
Yeah, you have to close the file, of course, so that you have no access, but you can use the same that file. It doesn't matter if you're using IL pair or PIL pair. So this is the should be mode.
You mean on a Windows system, Windows PC, you start PIL pair with the same with a dat file. It's working. If you will have access with your application to the same file, and it's working.
It's the same file, so everything virtual. My controller was AO71 Windows. Then I opened this file with PIL pair or initialize it, create a file, and then switch off PIL pair, start with IL pair, then set up to the same file, and then making reconnect.
Okay, so it's probably a Linux thing.
Yeah,
it's a Linux. Yeah.
Well, I will. I saw your post on the phone. I put it as a test. I didn't have time at
Yes.
But it's on my list to try because I'm using the command line to create that file and read and store in file. I'm also using PIL pair and IL pair. So I'm going to try different things and report back to you when I...
Hey, you have probably better things to do. I have today that file, and I start the IL pair on my Linux. It's working good. On the ARM, it's IL pair too. So the only thing is I just gave up PIL pair. So I would say this is only what happens, and I don't care at the end. Because it's working for me. So So if
Interesting. I think it's complicated in the way that you make it work, but it's a complicated stack.
On the next thing, what I'm doing, because when I was with the UK forum, when I was in, I presented them this presentation first time because I wanted to know, is it something which was already exist? And if it already exists, I will not present it here today because no value. But it didn't exist, and some people were asking, PI2, is it working? Say, I don't have the board. So I started to analyze the PI2. This one has a small issue, but I'm sure I will analyze it, and I'm currently making the whole command history. And the wish is, when my whole command history is done, just to put the SD card anywhere, and the whole stuff is coming down, and nearly the full install will be done. Yeah, for the PI2 version 1.2, or perhaps the 1.1, PI3, PI4. So this is this is so if.
You can have everything on one script, it's going to be easier for most people.
Yeah.
Because if not, then you have to know Linux embedded, how it's working, and
even that presentation before you read all links and so on, it's hours. Yeah. But the script, what I already started to document, I think it will be easier. That script install command history is not fully completed, but it will be done. And if there is any urgency, please just contact me. So that's it. Okay.